When the economy starts breaking down like it is right now, one thing you start seeing in general is more scams and more fraud across the board, and real estate is no stranger to fraud. And wire fraud has been one of the things that has always been the biggest concern when it comes to transacting real estate, because this is a way that criminals can steal basically your life savings in the matter of minutes. And if you're not savvy and you're not up on this, then it can happen to you. It happens to a lot of people every day. And there is a new type of wire fraud that has been emerging that people need to be aware of and watch out for. So I want to start today's video giving you guys a heads up on this in case you are going to be buying a property in the near future. That way you get an idea of what to expect. Now, in a traditional wire fraud scam, it's pretty simple. A hacker will basically gain access to your email account, and they will monitor your emails for a while, and especially the ones that you have back and forth between you and your real estate agent and you and the title company. And after a while, they'll start getting an idea of, how much the closing price is, when the closing date is supposed to be, and so on. And the next thing that they will do is they will basically give you fake closing instructions the day of or the day before the closing, and they'll give you fake wire instructions as well in order to get you to send your money that you need to close to the wrong account. And that is the most common form of wire fraud that we see right now. And there's a new version of this emerging. What they're doing now, instead of sending you an email with the wrong wiring instructions, is now they're asking you to join like a Google Meet session or a Zoom session, and they won't have the camera on, it'll just be audio only, and they'll pretend to be either your real estate agent or someone from the title company. Then they will tell you to initiate the wire transfer to the wrong account. And the thing is, guys, you really need to be careful of this, because obviously this is a new version of the scam and you know about it now after I tell you this in the video, but there could always be a new version of this come out as well. And once you wire that money to the wrong account, sometimes it's impossible to get it back. It depends on your bank. It depends on how soon after you realize that you were scammed. Maybe if you realize quick enough that there might be able to be something done about it. But other times people actually lose the money, guys. So it's very concerning. I know this is something you guys talk about all the time. People parking in the middle of the sidewalk like that. It's super annoying, guys. It really is. I guess there's not enough room in the driveway for all the toys. Multiple cars, jet ski, and then of course there's no garage because they had to make the house bigger. So let's just all block the sidewalk. And the thing is, these hackers could actually hack into your real estate agent's email, your title company's email, or possibly even your lender's email or your attorney's email. This could come from any angle. So they can start monitoring this transaction even if you personally haven't been hacked, but they're gonna be going after you because that's where the money comes from to close. So always be aware of these things, guys, because these scams are gonna become more and more common as people get more desperate. This is the way people make money. Criminals make money off of scamming people, but only if you let them. We got one for sale.
It is so crazy to see how far the market has come here. These guys are asking 2.6 million. They paid 1 million in 2016, but back in 2010 it sold for only 465,000.
I mentioned this once before, but I have to tell you guys, ever since Hurricane Ian passed through Florida, it literally brought right behind it the most beautiful fall weather that I think I've ever seen since I've lived here. And I've been here almost 15 years now. And every day has just been gorgeous since then. It's been at least like 10 degrees cooler every day. So that is a huge amount when you're talking, just these super hot days and not having it be as hot anymore. It's just been so gorgeous out here, the weather. And I don't think I've ever seen a fall come so early like this either, in the beginning of October. Usually things don't really start cooling down until about Halloween or after that. But we're getting lucky this year and get a little extra month of paradise. Now, just to finish up the wire fraud story, if you ever suspect anything, or better yet, guys, even if you don't suspect any foul play, you need to always verify the wire instructions to make sure they are 100% correct. So to give you an example of what this looks like, what my office does, anytime we accept an incoming wire transfer from anybody, whether it's just for a deposit or for a closing, whatever it is, our wire instruction page, I'll put it up on the screen so you guys can see, has the partial account number. And in order to get the rest of it, you have to call my office, Beachfront Realty, to get the remaining account number in order to complete the wire transaction. And this does two things. First, it forces the customer to call and make sure that they are sending the money to the right account, and it verifies that this is through Beachfront Realty. And instead of, somebody just sending an email to them with wire instructions and then just going for it without ever confirming anything. You need to have some sort of safety protocol in place like this, and if, for example, whoever you're sending the wire to doesn't have this, call the trusted phone number, call the title company directly, call the real estate office directly, and find out if this is in fact the right account number, just to be sure. It takes 5 minutes of your time, but can save you a lifetime worth of savings. So it's extremely important to do this. Another one, look at that. There's like 10 cars in this one little driveway. Can't walk over there at all. Now, because of the huge increase in mortgage interest rates we've seen, couple that with ultra low mortgage demand, we are starting to see the national home price start to fall, guys. Not by much, but it's a start, okay? In August, home prices across the country are down 0.7% from July, so almost a 1% decrease in 1 month. So a lot of people will say that's nothing, or prices are still going up in my area. And all I have to say to that, guys, is this is good news, okay? Pretty much for everyone, unless you're a seller looking to get absolute top dollar, but you kind of missed the boat on that. You should have done that already. But for everyone else, this is good news. And even though it might not sound like a lot, this could be the trend going forward for the rest of the year and all of next year because of these high interest rates. And even if the interest rates do come back down at some point next year, it's not going to be to the 3% or 2.5% that you saw a year ago. It's not going to happen. My prediction is when interest rates finally do come down, because right now most borrowers are looking at anywhere between a 7 and 8% already if you have average credit, average down payment, whatever. Only the most well-qualified borrowers are getting a rate below 7 right now. And I think that when rates finally do come back down, like a good rate in the future is going to be like 5%, 5.5%. Maybe some people will be just a little below 5% at like 4.95 or 4.8%, something like that. But I really don't see people getting, 3% interest rates really ever again. It's possible, but I think it's highly unlikely. Oh, you watch it?
We watch it.
Cool, man.
Yeah, we just noticed you over there down.
I'm making one right now. Say what's up to the channel,
guys?
man.
Badass videos. Keep it up.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate it.
This is a really nice area. I've got a lot of clients around here.
Oh yeah?
So,
What do you do here?
we take care of the yachts.
Oh
We
yeah?
own the water services for maintenance for any yacht, anywhere in the water in Miami.
I guess you guys probably have a lot of clients here with all these houses waterfront,
yeah,
huh?
A lot of clients.
Nice,
Yep.
man.
They keep us busy.
I'll bet.
I'm sure they keep you busy too.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool, man.
It's good to see you.
You too, man. Keep it up.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
It's so nice running into fans of the channel, guys. I love that. Sometimes I run into people out on the boardwalk when I'm walking at nighttime. It's so nice to run into people like this, just impromptu, out shooting the videos, so very cool. So the funny thing about this, with the home prices starting to go down, is even though we're seeing decreases right now month over month, the year over year prices are still up. And because of this, CoreLogic thinks that by August 2023, so a little less than a year from now, then we're still going to see a 3% appreciation in home prices. So that'll be interesting to see if that actually happens, because that's pretty much in line with the historical average. In the past, before all this mania started, you would see a 2 to 3% increase in your home value per year, and that was considered normal and good. So if it goes back to that, that means things are basically back to normal. But I think personally that things just still have a further way to fall. Let me know what you guys think. Now, if you guys think things are bad with the S&P 500, they've lost 25% of their value since the beginning of this year. I think that's pretty safe to say that the stock market is literally having its crash right now. But you know who's doing even worse than that? REITs, real estate investment trusts, the real estate funds that are traded in the stock market. In fact, one REIT in particular is down 28% since the beginning of the year, guys. The ticker symbol is FTSE, and they have lost 28% this year so far. Why is that? Well, it's the same reason that everything else is happening. The ultra high interest rates are literally crushing the real estate market, and REITs are not immune to this, guys. First of all, you have investors willing to now invest more in treasuries and bonds rather than these REITs because the return is better and it's safer. You know, it's basically a guaranteed return. So that's the first part. Also, the increased interest rates make borrowing money for these REITs extremely expensive, especially since most of these REITs, they borrow at short-term rates, which cost even higher interest rates than what you and I will go and pay for a 30-year loan. And so it's really taking its toll on the ability for these REITs to borrow money right now and gather capital to go out and acquire new properties. And it's not only that, but the more the borrowing costs are, the higher the interest rates, then the less profitable the REITs become because that starts eating into their profit margin on top of everything else. And the interesting thing is now that they're saying that REITs could fall even further this year because the interest rates are going to keep going up. So right now could be a good time to start looking at some of these REITs to see what's going to be a good deal and what's a good buying price if you're interested in buying something like this in the future. Got one for sale by owner here. Saving the commission.
The delusion is real. This house is only half the size of the first house that we saw. It's in original condition and they're asking more money. Insane.
Now, this article that I found talking about the REITs says there's a couple of types of REITs you might want to start looking into now that this shift is occurring, and it actually makes a lot of sense. One of them is apartment REITs, because obviously with the rising cost to buy any type of real estate right now, more people are going to be looking at rentals, and the biggest apartment REIT out there is Avalon Bay. Their ticker symbol is AVB, and right now, supposedly, their stock is totally undervalued, and obviously, they have a lot of future growth potential in the market like this when more and more people are going to be looking at renting instead of buying. So there's that. Another one I thought was interesting is data center REIT. And these are places that house all that computer equipment that basically work to run the internet and work to run cloud computing and the things that we need to run YouTube and these other websites that everybody uses, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, or even just things like Dropbox to store files online. So that's obviously something that's probably going to continue to grow into the future and might not be as susceptible to this downturn. So I thought it was interesting that they came out with these two different types of REITs that people might want to look at as the prices come down and as the rest of the traditional REITs start to suffer. So this is definitely not investment advice. It's just something that I found that I thought was interesting that I wanted to share with you guys, because it's always nice to hear of a way to kind of protect yourself during this downturn, right? One thing I've been covering a lot here on the channel, especially since the hurricane, is insurance. And rightfully so, because it's literally probably the #1 issue that Florida is going to be facing into 2023 when it comes to the housing market here and where things are going to go, guys, because ultimately if people can't afford insurance, then it's definitely going to have its effect on housing prices here. But just how much is kind of yet to be seen, because first of all, a lot of wealthy people buy real estate here in Florida, and they might not be impacted that much by an increase in their insurance premium. So that's the first thing. And all these areas that kind of used to be affordable are starting to go up in price a lot from where they used to be. So, it's kind of one of those things where areas that used to be affordable no longer are. And as that happens, people who can't afford these areas are going to be pushed out. The areas will be gentrified, and then more people that can afford them will come in. That's basically the formula, essentially. So How much this is going to affect Florida still is yet to be seen. So there was this really long article, which I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I'm just going to give some highlights on this from the Florida Realtors today. And basically the concept of the article was to explore the idea of maybe it's time for the United States to have a national disaster insurance program, because we already have a national flood insurance program for like the last 50 years. But the problem with programs like this is they're inefficient. You have some areas that are much more affected by flooding than others, and you have people paying disproportionate amount of premiums. You know, people that might not be at risk of flooding that much paying a higher premium than they should, and simultaneously you have people in a higher risk zone, you know, sometimes paying less than they should. So it's definitely an unbalanced program, and definitely if they decide to come out with a national disaster insurance program, it might have some backlash on that because of already these discrepancies that we have with the flood insurance programs. And basically the old idea of insurance is a bunch of people pay premiums, it goes into a fund, and then they basically count on having X amount of disasters or claims per year, and it's enough to cover it because not everyone has to make a claim. It's just a set amount of people need to make a claim, so they can kind of more or less assess where the risk is going to be at and so on. But with more national disasters happening on the regular, like the wildfires out west and more hurricanes doing more damage, making landfall in the US, and earthquakes as well. Big disasters are costing so much that even after years of collecting premiums, it's not enough for these insurance companies to pay out, which you guys kind of know my position on this. I'm already skeptical on insurance, guys. I mean, these are for-profit companies. It's not like these companies don't make any money, or their CEOs or executives or employees don't go home with a salary. That's not how it works. Obviously, these guys make money, so my thing is like, okay, they're saying they don't have enough money to pay the claims, yet people can go home with six-figure salaries. Something doesn't add up there, right? But here's kind of how this would work. If we decided to have a national disaster insurance program, it pretty much comes out of everybody's tax dollars. And say, for example, if you live in an area where there's just not that many natural disasters, you're going to be paying for this and subsidizing areas where there are. And it's not as simple as just forcing people to leave certain areas, or saying, you know, you can't live here anymore because you can't have insurance, because sometimes people are trapped in certain areas. They can't move because they can't afford to move or whatever. And on the flip side, with private insurance companies, you know, people sign up for these policies, but then of course they have all of the fine print, right, of things that are not covered in the event of a disaster. And of course, it's usually the things that you need to be covered the most, and this is how insurance companies make money. So we're basically at a crossroads where we need to have more private insurance companies that can get away with murder when it comes to not paying claims or not covering certain parts of disasters that are very expensive for people, or you have like a public insurance, kind of like we have here in Florida with Citizens Insurance, and everyone pays. And that kind of helps bring the cost down because everyone's paying for it. But then again, like I said, people are going to be disproportionately affected by paying for this insurance, especially if you don't need it. But other countries apparently are already doing this, like Spain, France, and New Zealand. They take an approach where they mandate property insurance, like your homeowner's insurance, to cover all natural disasters. I don't know. Maybe it is time for that, maybe it's not. Let me know what you guys think. I'm not really sure how I feel about this because I just found out about this today. So, of course, this isn't something that's like happening tomorrow, but it's something on the radar, and it's a thing we might see develop over the next few years in the insurance industry as premiums get more expensive and more private companies go bust or just pull out of certain markets. I think it could end up coming down to where a lot of people have no choice but to maybe start implementing something like this, and I think that's why they're looking at this national disaster insurance as an option. If you guys want to see more videos like this one, I got two options for you. One, you can hit the bell notification down below. That way you guys always get reminded when I put out a new video. And if you don't want to wait for that, then just check out the next one on the screen right over here, because if you like this one, you're probably going to like that one too. See you over there.